The only man I was ever afraid of was a woman named Griselda Blanco. This is what infamous drug lord Pablo Escobar allegedly once said about the person who created one of the most profitable cartels in history. In the heart of Miami's darkest corners, a name was whispered in fear. Griselda Blanco, the ruthless queen of the cocaine world. A woman who turned the streets into a battlefield, her empire stretched from Colombia to the US, fueled by blood and betrayal. Known as the cocaine godmother, she built a criminal empire that made billions, leaving a trail of death and destruction. No one dared to cross her, for her power was absolute, and her thirst for control was unquenchable. She wasn't just a boss, she was a legend of her own world where mercy had no place. But behind her icy stare and iron fist, there was a mind that could outsmart anyone, and a heart that could kill without a second thought. Griselda Blanco wasn't just a queen in a man's world. She was the queen of terror. A woman who had people murdered because she didn't like the way they looked at her. Blanco was a ruthless criminal mastermind whose name was one of the most feared in 1970s and 80s Miami. Born in Cartagena, Colombia, in 1943, Griselda Blanco Restrepo moved to Medellin when she was 3 years old. Medellin exposed Blanco to a criminal lifestyle at an early age. When she was 11, she purportedly helped kidnap a 10-year-old boy from a wealthy family in the Medellin area. When the family wouldn't pay his ransom, Blanco allegedly shot the abducted child. She also reportedly became a pickpocket and sex worker, though she denies the latter, and ran away from home at the age of 19. When she was still a teenager, Blanco married a small-time criminal, Carlos Trujillo, and the couple had 3 children together. They later divorced, but remained business partners, and it's thought that Blanco ordered his murder several years later. In 1964, Blanco illegally emigrated to the United States under an assumed name and with fake papers. She settled in Queens, New York, with her 3 children and her second husband, Alberto Bravo, a cocaine smuggler for the Medellin cartel, founded and run by Pablo Escobar. Bravo introduced his new wife to the trade. Blanco initially trafficked marijuana, but soon switched to cocaine, which was easier to transport from Colombia to the United States via female couriers wearing bras and girdles with special pockets to hide the drugs. Blanco was married 3 times and had 4 sons. Her first husband was Carlos Trujillo, a forger. She had 3 sons with Trujillo: Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo. Although they divorced in the late 1960s, Blanco is suspected of ordering Trujillo's death in the early 1970s. After they worked together as drug traffickers, Blanco killed her second husband, Alberto Bravo, in a shootout outside Bogotá, Colombia, in 1975. She had suspected that Bravo had been stealing from her. This resulted in another Blanco nickname, Black Widow. With her third husband, Dario Sepulveda, Blanco had 1 more son, Michael Corleone. He was named after a character from The Godfather, portrayed by Al Pacino in the Godfather movies. In 1983, Sepulveda was killed in Medellin by men pretending to be police officers. Blanco was also suspected of ordering his death. Blanco's 3 oldest sons followed in her footsteps. Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo worked as drug traffickers, and all 3 were sent to federal prison around the same time as their mother. After being released from prison, they returned to Colombia. Uber and Osvaldo were both killed there, as Griselda would be in 2012. Dixon reportedly died as well, though some sources state that he is still alive or, at least, outlived his mother. Michael Corleone was arrested for cocaine trafficking in 2011. His probation for these charges ended in 2018, according to Fox News. He has appeared on the VH1 series Cartel Crew, about the children and grandchildren of drug traffickers, and launched a clothing and lifestyle brand called Pure Blanco. Blanco's success, which earned her nicknames like the Black Widow and Cocaine Godmother, soon attracted the attention of the USA's Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, and in April 1975, she and more than 30 of her partners were indicted on federal drug conspiracy charges. Blanco managed to escape arrest, however, by fleeing to Colombia. Blanco accused her husband of stealing millions of dollars from their enterprise, and he retaliated by saying she had let her Godmother nickname go to her head, leading Blanco to shoot him dead. Blanco then returned to America and settled in Miami to set up her own business in the late 1970s. Her return coincided with a wave of crime, including hundreds of homicides per year, in a period during the 1980s when cocaine was trafficked more than cannabis, which became known as the Miami Drug War. Blanco established a massive narcotics ring that at its height was reportedly trading 3,400 pounds of cocaine every month. She used violence to ensure her dominance, murdering people to avoid paying them money she owed, or because they owed her money, or if she felt they had disrespected her. According to the 2014 book Drugs in American Society, she was responsible for most of South Florida's murders from 1979 to 1981. During this time, Blanco had her youngest son, Michael Corleone Blanco, named after the character from the film The Godfather, with her third husband, Dario Sepulveda. Sepulveda left her in 1983, returned to Colombia, and kidnapped Michael when he and Blanco disagreed over who would have custody. Blanco then paid to have Sepulveda assassinated in Colombia, and her son returned to her in the US. On February 17, 1985, Blanco was arrested in her home by the DEA and charged with conspiring to manufacture, import, and distribute cocaine. The case went to trial in federal court in New York City, where she was found guilty and sentenced to 15 years in prison. At one point during her sentence, she allegedly planned for associates to kidnap John F. Kennedy Jr. in order to use the former president's son as a bargaining chip for her freedom. While serving her sentence, Blanco was also charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecution made a deal with one of Blanco's most trusted hitmen, Jorge Ayala, who agreed to testify that she had ordered him to carry out the killings. However, the case collapsed due to technicalities, and Blanco escaped the death penalty. In 1998, she pleaded guilty to 3 counts of second-degree murder and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. But in 2002, Blanco, a lifelong smoker, suffered a heart attack. In 2004, in light of her continuing health issues, she was granted compassionate release from prison and deported to Medellin. Blanco seemed to have given up her life of crime once she returned to Colombia. But in 2012, at the age of 69, she was shot by a gunman on a motorbike as she was leaving a butcher shop in Medellin. The identity of her killer remains unknown. She is buried in Jardines Montesacro Cemetery, the same resting place as her rival, Pablo Escobar. Griselda Blanco's story is wild, filled with power, betrayal, and bloodshed. From running a billion-dollar empire to being gunned down in the streets of Medellin, her life was anything but ordinary. But what do you think? Was she just another ruthless criminal? Or was she a mastermind who played the game better than anyone else? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a story like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.